This video will introduce you to the idea of composition of transformations. So first of all, we have to start off by asking ourselves the question, what is a composition? Well, the composition is really the combining or the putting together of two or more transformations. We're going to do that in a special form using a special symbol. And the symbol that we're going to use is this open circle symbol, which is going to be our symbol for composition. When you see that open circle symbol, I want you to think to yourself either the word following or the word after. So the way that we would read this composition would be a reflection in the x-axis after or following a reflection in the line y equals x. So what that means is that in order to perform this transformation, we're actually going to start with the reflection in the line y equals x on the right and do that first. Then lastly, move to the left and do that reflection in the x-axis. So it's a little bit counterintuitive because we read left to right, but when we perform compositions, we actually perform them from right to left. All right, so I know you're eager. Let's go ahead and let's get right into example one. In example one, it says find the image of triangle ABC with those vertices after the composition of reflection in the x-axis, after a translation that moves something 3 units to the right and 4 units up. As you might have guessed, I'm going to go ahead and start this by plotting the points and getting my triangle right down on paper. So this is A, this is B, C has coordinates 6, 6. And keeping in mind that that composition symbol really means either the word after or the word following, I'm going to go ahead and begin by performing that translation. And again, remember that with that translation, we're either going to add 3 to each x value and then add 4 to each y value, or we're going to think about moving each point to the right 3 units and up 4 units. So I'm going to move each point to the right 3 units and up 4 units. I'm not going to label this C prime because keep in mind that after I perform this translation, I also have to reflect in the x-axis. And again, this isn't my final answer, so I'm going to do this triangle as kind of, I'm going to call it a ghost triangle or a dotted triangle. It's just kind of a placeholder right now until I can go ahead and complete the second part of the problem. And now that I've gone ahead and I've done the translation, now I can go ahead and do the second part of this, which is the reflection in the x-axis. So this was my C. When I reflect in the x-axis, C prime now is down at the point 9, negative 10. B was up here. When I reflect that in the x-axis, point B prime now is at 4, negative 10. And my A was right here. When I reflect that in the x-axis, it becomes 4, negative 6. So my coordinates after that composition become A prime with coordinates 4, negative 6, B prime with coordinates 4, negative 10, and C prime with coordinates 9, negative 10. All right, at this point, if you have a question about anything I said or did, my advice would be to go ahead and either press stop or pause and jot your question down in the margin so that the next time you come back to class, you'll remember to ask. In the meantime, I'm eager, I'm ready, I'm going ahead to number 2. Find the image of the triangle with those coordinates after a reflection in the x-axis, after or following a reflection in the y-axis. And again, my very first step is going to be to go ahead and plot each of those points. And draw my triangle. And then I'm going to perform the composition, remembering that that open circle means the word after or the word following. So I'm going to work from right to left, and I'm going to perform that reflection in the y-axis first. So again, this is kind of my little ghost triangle, which is what I get as a result of reflecting triangle ABC in the y-axis. But that's only the first part of my composition. Now I've got to go ahead and do the second part, which is that reflection in the x-axis. So C is going to map down here across or over the x-axis to 8, -5. And that's where my C prime ends up. This little green dot up here that was the image of A after the first part of the composition now gets reflected over the x-axis. And this little green dot, which was the image of B, is going to get reflected over the x-axis and come up here. So when all is said and done, A ends up at A prime with coordinates 2, -2. B ends up at B prime and has coordinates 2, 4. And lastly, C ends up at C prime with coordinates 8, -5. And again, if you have questions, I would encourage you to write them down in the margin so that the next time you come to class, you can remember to ask your questions. As always, I want to thank you for the gift of your time in watching the video. And go ahead and flip up to the next page and in your own words summarize the key ideas. Remember more that you remember more when you take the time to summarize it in your own words. And then see if you can apply your newfound knowledge to answer the questions on the next page.